Joe Biden believes that every American, regardless of gender, race, income, sexual orientation, or zip code, should have access to affordable and quality health care. Yet, evil white people is what he's saying here. Biden and the entire Democrat machine have been talking about white people, and the entire campaign was all about targeting white people. He said it numerous times that the threat to the United States, the threat to people's well-being, the threat to their health care, their threat to them getting what they deserve, what they've worked for in life, the threat to the security of the nation vis-a-vis other nations around the world, the threat to contracting COVID-19 and the rest, they said over and over, is the anti-white slur, white supremacy, is heresy to anti-whiteism. Everybody must be an anti-white. They said it repeatedly. The Kamala said it, Biden said it, their handlers said it, their functionaries said it, their stand-ins said it, their senators said it, their governors said it, their mayors said it. It's been said the entire time during this campaign. There's no doubt about it. But of course, if CNN says it's not real, then we'll flip on a dime and say it's not real either. So be sure to check it out, though. Look back through the video. You'll see whether it happened or not. It indicates that racism is part of healthcare, and that it is the duty of every president to have the duty of care, and every citizen to have the duty of care for their fellow citizens. So this is, he said in multiple speeches, Joe Biden, the duty of care for their fellow citizens, and that is the responsibility of government to have the duty of care. Well, what does Joe Biden mean by the duty of care? Well, you saw that from his previous statement that I read to you, and what I was sharing about from his speeches throughout the totality of the campaign. So let's take a step down and we'll see definition of duty of care. Duty of care, a requirement that a person act toward others and the public with the watchfulness, attention, caution, and prudence that a reasonable person in the circumstances would use. If a person's actions do not meet the standard of care, then the acts are considered negligent, and any damages resulting may be claimed in a lawsuit for negligence. Now, that comes from the law.com. So in other words, you will be under a anti-whites, they go by the name of Democrat, you will be subject to lawsuits, potentially subject to lawsuits for, this could be interpreted this way, for not protecting non-white people and other so-called victim groups from the evil white man. Joe Biden, given Joe Biden's continued preference for non-white people, it is not surprising that his campaign is seeking to work with the organization Mental Health America, that claims its focus is this. And this is a direct quote from Mental Health America. Mental Health America understands that racism undermines mental health. Therefore, we are committed to anti-racism in all that we do. This means that we pledge to work against individual racism, interpersonal racism, and institutional racism in all their forms. That is your future with the Democrats in the United States. What do you think of the people who have been arguing for, we need to look forward to this new, to these new opportunities, to this new day under Joe Biden as the president? I'm going to read this again. And remember, folks, if you are ever confronted with somebody saying that they are anti-racist, you tell them it's just code for anti-whiteism. It's just code to be anti-white. And you just keep moving right through them. I'll read the quote again from the Mental Health America quote. Mental Health America understands that racism undermines mental health. I want to pause there because imagine this. Anti-whites and the anti-white narrative say that this anti-white slur, this concept, that it's everywhere. It's omnipresent. It's more omnipresent than oxygen because it goes beyond planet Earth. It's just everywhere. It is omnipresent. It is ubiquitous. And so they say that it's ubiquitous and it undermines mental health. Well, whose mental health is being undermined? Who are you going to have to pay for? Who is going to have access to programs that you won't have access to? So therefore, you will be discriminated against there, discriminated against when you have to pay for these things. Who is going to be the ones who are indicted? Who are going to be the ones who are in trouble? Who are going to be the ones that are hauled before the anti-white tribunals? Who are going to be the ones that continue to suffer from this this anti-white social lynching that takes place in the United States and indeed around the Western world? And how many other Western countries will immediately pick this up once the Democrats, anti-whites who call themselves Democrats, implement this in the United States? Cut this segment out and share this with idiots out there. There are plenty of them, regrettably. Mental Health America understands that racism undermines mental health. Therefore, we are committed to anti-racism. We are committed to anti-whiteism in all that we do. This means that we pledge to work against individual racism, interpersonal racism, and institutional racism in all their forms, close quote. That is directly from the organizational entity that Biden is working with as part of everything that he's putting together for his presidency. Does this sound at all like it's an appeal to, you have Republicans out there who are never Trumpers, they hate Trump, and they're trying to assuage themselves and their horrible acts, and they're trying to convince others that bringing down T-Rex is the thing to do, because as soon as Biden is in office, he's going to move to the center. How dumb can you be? They're lying to themselves. They're lying to all of you. If there was a center that he would be moving toward, he would be placating them now. It's not the individuals with the power. Those are not the individuals that are taking videos of children and then in pictures and then sending those to people in government and law and not law enforcement, but lawyers and judges and the like, and saying, oh, look, we know where your children are. We're going to get them. Those aren't the moderates that are doing that. Those are not the people that Biden and Kamala, she's of course radical, he's of course radical, anti-whites. Those are not the people that are going to be bending their argument and the things that they implement to once in office. It's going to be the people who are threatening murder and rape that they are going to be placating, that they're going to be kowtowing to. We have here, it says individual racism. So if you happen to say something that they consider heretical, well, now you're going to be able to be prosecuted for that. Interpersonal racism. Well, so you might not actually be responsible, but given the context, you are responsible because you're a white person. And then institutional. Well, you could actually be totally anti-white, and as long as you're white, you're still punishable. So that is coming. Let's continue with this. This is another direct quote from Mental Health America. Quote, racism is a mental health issue because racism causes trauma. And trauma paints a direct line to mental illness, which needs to be taken seriously. Past trauma is prominently mentioned as the reason that people experience serious mental health conditions today. But obvious forms of racism and bigotry are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to racial trauma. So you see how nebulous and protean this is. They can wheedle out any definition and therefore any act. They can legitimize any act, any desire, any amount of punishment for you and for all white people, whether you care about white well-being or even if you're white and anti-white. They can come for you with this sort of verbiage. Let me just sort of scan through. It indicates that quote, racism of any kind, including harmful speech or ideas, causes trauma to non-white communities, and therefore causes them to suffer mental illness. The circle is then completed by the continued claim that the majority of violent crimes committed by non-white people are due to mental health issues. Therefore, racism and racist ideas must be stopped to prevent non-white people from committing criminal acts. Got it? So in other words, non-white people who break the law are only doing so because You have traumatized them psychologically by being white and alive. So what will happen to the punishment of non-white criminals, especially when their victims are white? It doesn't take a big leap here to see where the anti-whites are going with this. You deserved it. You have caused them to rape. You have caused them to murder. You have caused them to steal. You deserved it. So how severe, using this ill logic, this pseudo logic, how much do they deserve? And how legitimate with this pseudo logic is it to punish them when you have caused them to do that? This is the exact same argument that children will make when they're being deceptive, when they're being lying little turds, and they say, well, he made me punch him in the face. We as adults, we know that that's Bravo Sierra, and here as adults, we know that this is Bravo Sierra. Additionally, current government organizations and studies are attempting to classify racism as a mental health crisis. This will allow the government to use the duty of care in the law to force those who are classified as racist to seek treatment for the disorder because of the duty they have to their fellow citizens. So do you understand now? The duty of care that's in law can be used under this verbiage, which will be something the Democrats will absolutely, anti-whites who call themselves Democrats, will absolutely implement in power, and or ask Snopes or CNN. But of course, I'm sure they would applaud. They would say yes at this point with their hegemonic control. They would say yes and hell yes. But nevertheless, get both sides of the story. They will use something that is already in law to say that you have to seek treatment or you are breaking the law. This is how it could be and will be interpreted in the uniparty scenario that the anti-whites who call themselves Democrats are reaching. The following in this information that we, let's see, couldn't source, let me see, direct quotes, okay. They're quotes from U.S. News Report, interviews with Biden. Biden wants to leverage hundreds of billions of dollars in federal funds to support entrepreneurs, non-white entrepreneurs. So again, this leader class, this wealth class, this business owner class that you will have to work for. So your livelihood will have to depend on them and what they think about you and what they think about Western kind. Ensuring affordable housing and tripling federal contracting with small disadvantaged businesses, tripling. Could you imagine all of the contracts that already go to not only non-whites? So discriminating, good for them. It's good. If you can get the money, then get it. Good for them. The business is good for them. But it's discriminatory for us. It's discriminatory to advance, enrich, and empower non-white people at the expense of detriment to and ruination of Western kind. It's a discrimination. That's what we should be talking about, the discrimination against us. Biden's talking about going from 5% of federal contracting dollars to 15%. Also proposing includes $30 billion for small business opportunity fund to support businesses run by specifically Black, Hispanic, and Native American executives. So isn't that interesting? Specifically citing several groups there. The race to the bottom, we will steal more from the West and give to you, put us in power, keep us in power forever. That is exactly what I've talked about for a very long time.